Chapter 12. Frank. After that, the battle was mayhem. Frank, Percy, and Hazel waded through the enemy, plowing down anyone who stood in their way. The first and second cohorts, pride of Camp Jupiter, a well-oiled, highly disciplined war machine, fell apart under the assault and the sheer novelty of being on the losing side. Part of their problem was Percy. He fought like a demon, whirling through the defenders' ranks in a completely unorthodox style, rolling under their feet, slashing with his sword instead of stabbing like a Roman would, whacking campers with the flat of his blade, and generally causing mass panic. Octavian screamed in a shrill voice, maybe ordering the first cohort to stand their ground, maybe trying to sing soprano, but Percy put a stop to it. He somersaulted over a line of their shields and slammed the butt of his sword into Octavian's helmet. The centurion collapsed like a sock puppet. Frank shot arrows until his quiver was empty, using blunt-tipped missiles that wouldn't kill, but left some nasty bruises. He broke his phylum over a defender's head, then reluctantly drew his gladius. Meanwhile, Hazel climbed onto Hannibal's back. She charged towards the center of the fort, grinning down at her friends. "Let's go, slowpokes!" Gods of Olympus, she's beautiful, Frank thought. They ran to the center of the base. The inner keep was virtually unguarded. Obviously, the defenders never dreamed an assault would get this far. Hannibal busted down the huge doors. Inside, the first and second cohort standard bearers were sitting around a table playing mythomagic with cards and figurines. The cohort's emblems were propped carelessly against one wall. Hazel and Hannibal rode straight into the room, and the standard bearers fell backwards out of their chairs. Hannibal stepped on the table, and the game pieces scattered. By the time the rest of the cohort caught up with them, Percy and Frank had disarmed the enemies, grabbed the banners, and climbed onto Hannibal's back with Hazel. They marched out of the keep triumphantly with their enemy colors. The fifth cohort formed ranks around them. Together they paraded out of the fort, past stunned enemies and lines of equally mystified allies. Reyna circled low overhead on her Pegasus. "The game is won!" She sounded as if she was trying not to laugh. "Assemble for honors!" Slowly the campers regrouped on the field of Mars. Frank saw plenty of minor injuries, some burns, broken bones, black eyes, cuts and gashes, plus a lot of very interesting hairdos from the fires exploding in water cannons, but nothing that couldn't be fixed. He slid off the elephant. His comrades swarmed him, pounding him on the back and complimenting him. Frank wondered if he was dreaming. It was the best night of his life. Until he saw Gwen. "Help!" somebody yelled. A couple of campers rushed out of the fortress, carrying a girl on a stretcher. They set her down, and the other kids started running over. Even from a distance, Frank could tell it was Gwen. She was in bad shape. She lay on her side on the stretcher with a phylum sticking out of her armor, almost like she was holding it between her chest and her arm, but there was too much blood. Frank shook his head in disbelief. "No, no, no," he muttered as he ran to her side. The medics barked at everyone to stand back and give her air. The whole legion fell silent as the healers worked, trying to get gauze and powdered unicorn horn under Gwen's armor to stop the bleeding, trying to force some nectar into her mouth. Gwen didn't move. Her face was ashen gray. Finally, one of the medics looked up at Reyna and shook his head. For a moment there was no sound except for water from the ruined cannons trickling down the walls of the fort. Hannibal nuzzled Gwen's hair with his trunk. Reyna surveyed the campers from her Pegasus. Her expression was as hard and dark as iron. "There will be an investigation. Whoever did this, you cost the Legion a good officer. Honorable death is one thing, but this..." Frank wasn't sure what she meant. Then he noticed the marks engraved on the wooden shaft of the phylum. Chit I Legal, the 12th, F. The weapon belonged to the first cohort, and the point was sticking out from under her armor. Gwen had been speared from behind, possibly after the game had ended. Frank scanned the crowd for Octavian. The centurion was watching with more interest than concern, as if he were examining one of his stupid gutted teddy bears. He didn't have a phylum. Blood roared in Frank's ears. He wanted to strangle Octavian with his bare hands. But at that moment, Gwen gasped. Everyone stepped back. Gwen opened her eyes. The color came back to her face. What is it?" she blinked. "What's everyone staring at?" She didn't seem to notice the 7-foot harpoon sticking out through her chest. Behind Frank, a medic whispered, "There's no way. She was dead. She has to be dead."